The story opens with a young boy who was perplexed by some strange noises coming from a mine. Being afraid, he comes to his truck and hides in it. Meanwhile, his father also comes near the truck. He sobs to his father about the eerie noises coming from the mine. Then his father responds, "You were just hearing the sound of rocks crashing from the mine." This boy's father was a miner. His father says to him, "We will soon return to your brother Lucas after carrying out our work." After this, he goes into the mine with his co-worker for mining. When they were working in the mine, he noticed the same sounds that his son was describing. There was profound darkness in that mine. With the help of a flaring torch, they begin to move in that direction to detect the source of the sound. Suddenly, a huge creature attacks them, and the kid in the truck also hears their screams. He became so afraid that he began to move towards mine and started calling his father while moving inside with the little steps. The scene cuts to 3 weeks later, when a school teacher named Julia was teaching her students, and at the time, she was explaining a tale to them. She says to a student named Lucas, "Tell us your any personal experience." But Lucas refuses. It is revealed here that this kid, Lucas, is none other than the second child of the miner. Some students tease Lucas too much and make fun of him. Then Lucas directs himself towards mine from there. He observes a small animal on the ground. After killing it with a stone, he keeps it in his bag and heads toward his house. There was a tightly secure room in his house. The scene changes to Julia glimpsing her family photos, where it is exposed that she has no family members in this world except her brother Paul. Lucas is also viewing his family photos on the other side. The shaking noise coming from the locked room then starts to be heard by him. The next day, Julia asks Lucas to tell a story and he does the same. He tells 3 bears they used to live in a city. One day, 2 bears' behavior changed and they became violent. She is surprised to hear his story and says to him, "Your story is the best." Some boys also tease him after school and also beat him. She reaches out to a doctor with him and tries to contact his family. Nobody responds to her, and something can be seen attempting to flee the room in the interim. Julia observes Lucas looking inside the restaurant and takes him inside for a meal. She asks about his brother and he replies, "My brother always lives with my father." But when she asks about his father, he denies it and says he wants to go back home. "Please don't chase me." While on the road, he witnesses a dead animal on the way. After picking it up, he heads toward his house. After some time, Julia visits his house to meet with his family. But some horrible sounds were coming as she opened the door. When Julia drives away from the house in a panic and confusion, she discovers the sketch he had made when she returns. He had sketched a horrific creature's face. Meanwhile, her brother Paul appears there, and due to his immediate appearance, she gets scared. When Lucas arrived at the residence, he cut the animal into pieces and entered the locked space. His father, who has changed into that creature, arrives at the location where he places it. At the same time, his younger brother also approaches, and he also starts eating the dead animal. His father shouts and a scared Luca runs away from there. On the other hand, Julia is playing the piano, and suddenly, she begins to visualize her father. She shouts, and her brother arrives there. After being calm, she asks Paul about Lucas's father. He reveals that his father was a miner and an alcoholic. I tried to arrest him because of his addictions, but he remains free with the help of his kids. He has been taking care of his kids since the death of his wife. Julia reveals to him that his son Lucas is my student. And I visited his house yesterday, but I didn't find anyone there. I also heard horrific sounds there. I think there is surely something mysterious happening. After hearing it, Paul forbids her not to visit there again. The scene cuts to Lucas, who is making sketches at his house. His brother calls from the locked room and asks him to bring something to eat. But Lucas ignores him, and on the next day, he sets traps to catch the animals and also glimpses an old man. He observes a corpse before him, which is in its worst condition. He rushes to inform the police. Scene changes to Julia, who is checking his seat at Lucas's and discovers animal trapping as well as sketchbooks. He had drawn strange and horrible drawings. She moves to the principal and shows them to her. She believes Lucas is experiencing some sort of problem at his home. It is also possible that his father is torturing him. The principal responds by saying that she will go to his house tomorrow and speak with his father. When Julia returns home, she notices her very worried brother. She asks him why he is so upset. Paul reveals that his friend has discovered a corpus in the forest, which is in its worst condition. On the other hand, Lucas goes to his brother to feed him. But he was coughing badly, he even threw up black blood from his mouth and eyes. Being frightened, he leaves the room. On the next day, the corpus is brought to the doctor, which leaves the doctor shocked. The doctor explains to Paul that this corpus has the tooth mark of a human. Paul was disputing his assertion that a human had consumed it. The principal now enters the scene and arrives at Lucas' house, only to discover it empty. Coming into the house, she listens to the voices of Lucas' brother and enters that locked room. She encounters his brother, who is in an unstable health condition. The principal is attacked at the same time by his father, who drags her like a beast and knocks her to the ground. Then a creature comes out of him while stretching his body. Paul comes to the same mine with his team and they start their investigation. After discovering a broken horn, they concluded that this horn does not belong to any animal. The action now shifts to Lucas, who is heading home when he runs into his classmate on the way. He teases him again, and at the same time, the creature emerges from a tree. He begins to pluck his flesh after attacking him. Meanwhile, Lucas runs and reaches his house while noticing the parked car of his principal. He immediately goes into that locked room and understands the whole story. He did not want to indulge in this affliction, so he hid the principal's car. On the other hand, Paul tells Julia that her school's principal is missing. Julia doubts she might be present in Lucas' house. He was cleaning all the blood stains at the time when Paul approaches and calls his father's name. Lucas hides and a disappointed Paul moves from there. The next day, Paul assures all that he will search for the principal in every condition. Julia confirms whether Lucas is present in his class or not and then heads towards his house. After finding the principal's car, Julia calls his brother and he reaches there with his team. While searching the house, they discover one more corpus with the principal's corpus. When Lucas was returning to his house, Julia captures him and takes him to a hospital, where the doctor explains to them that he is mentally disturbed and feeble. Paul questions her, why is she thinking so much about Lucas? She replies, his brother is missing, his father is no more, he is family less right now. He is my student and it is my responsibility. Lucas has memories of a time in the past when his father had been contaminated by the creature. He begins to keep his both kids away from him and locked himself in this room. He says to his kids, listen my kids, I am so sick. Lock this door from outside and don't open it without my approval. After some time, Lucas, out of curiosity, unlocks the door and finds that his father has transformed into a strange man. He reveals to his father that his brother's condition is also worsening. Lucas' father drags his brother into that room and closes the door. In the next scene, Paul and Julia reach out to the man who had informed them about that corpus in the forest. They show the drawn sketches of Lucas and after glimpsing those images, that man claims this is a creature from his book. It is a creature named Wendigo that turns humans into him after attacking him. Paul denies him and calls it a myth. Furthermore, he reveals that the creature can be killed by pulling its heart out when it is weak. After mocking his words, Paul receives his friend's call while heading home. He tells him that they have discovered one more corpus in the forest. Paul reaches there and realizes that he was Lucas's classmate. After hearing the doctor's facts, he believes that there is a creature that is killing people. Getting discharged from the hospital, Julia begins to converse with Lucas at home. He tells her his family loves him and they are coming to pick him up. Meanwhile, that creature echoes out of the house. The officer goes to check the sound while informing about it to Paul. He finds Lucas' brother lying in a box but at the same time, the creature assaults him from the backside. Paul also reaches there and Lucas comes out of the house to meet his brother. Whereas Julia tries to stop him but he ignores her. Coming into the cabin, Paul also witnesses him while getting closer to him. The creature attacks him and throws him away. That creature had left from there but it again attacked him. He glimpses an iron rod and stabs it inside the creature. Julia also reaches there while searching for Lucas. She dresses his injury and comes to that mine in search of Lucas with his brother. With the help of the gun, she moves inside the cave and notices that the creature is also there, which is eating the animals. It stares at her and moves towards her but Julia fires her gun. There was profound darkness in the cave, and she loses his sight. The creature begins to target her from the backside. After scaring him with a flare, she stabs a rod into that creature. Now Lucas also attacks with a knife. Being weak, the creature stumbles, and getting a chance, Julia uses a knife to rip out his heart. Lucas' brother is also echoing like his father. Julia understands that he is going to become a creature. She heads toward him to kill him, but Lucas stops her and forbids her from doing it. He requests her, don't kill my brother, he will be recovered. She explains to him that he cannot recover now. She embraces him and stabs a knife at his back. Further, Julia expresses that she will take custody of Lucas and will look after him. She was leaving, but at the same time, Paul started to cough. Consequently, his mouth throws the black blood. The film ends here. Thanks for watching and check out our next movie recap displayed on the screen.